This slide states the stages visually for the topic. As you look at the imagery here, think about a single policy that can shape daily life, especially for an island that relies on constant shipping. The Jones Act is often discussed like it's just a business rule, but we're going to show you how it becomes a people and environmental issue too. What's the big question driving this whole presentation? This isn't just history, this is a modern issue happening right now. When laws increase cost and reduce shipping choices, that affects the environment too. More emissions, slower response times, and longer population exposures after disasters. Puerto Rico, culture, environment, and daily life. Puerto Rico is home to 3 million residents, while 6 million Puerto Ricans now live on the U.S. mainland. This tells us something about important a lot of Puerto Ricans have already being pushed to leave. Migration isn't random. People usually leave when opportunity collapses or daily life becomes too expensive or unsustainable.
The island's culture is vibrant, resilient, and deeply tied to its coastal and marine environment. However, 43% of residents live below the poverty line despite being U.S. citizens. Environmental science connects directly to this reality. Access to food, fuel, medical supplies, and building materials affect public health, sustainability, and disaster resilience. What is the Jones Act and what does it matter? Now we define the law. The Jones Act is a U.S. shipping law that restricts who can transport goods between U.S. ports. That matters for Puerto Rico because it limits competition and often forces more expensive shipping options, especially during emergency. Food, fuel, and construction materials often cost nearly double compared to mainland prices. Cleaner, newer foreign ships are legally barred, increasing environmental efficiency. Environmental impact. Higher fuel consumption, fewer shipping options, slower disaster response, increased emissions for shipment. How does the law intend to protect national security and not harming an island ecosystem? This question is the heart of the presentation. Sometimes policies protect one group while damaging another. In Puerto Rico's case, the ecosystem and the people are connected. When recovery is delayed, pollution lasts longer and communities stay exposed to health risks.
After Hurricanes Maria and Fiona, ports were damaged, power grids collapsed, clean water and medical supplies were scarce. This is what a real emergency looks like on an island. When ports and power systems fail, you need fast shipping for generators, medicine, water filters, and rebuilding supplies. Any delay becomes life threatening, and it also creates environmental harm because people rely on temporary, dirtier energy sources longer. Jones Act slowed emergency aid, increased rebuilding costs, added bureaucratic delays, environmental consequences, prolonged fuel generator use, delayed water treatment repairs, and increased pollution exposure in vulnerable communities. Social impact. Thousands fled the island due to lack of opportunity. Families were separated, recovery lagged far behind mainland disaster responses. Change-making focus. Disaster recovery should prioritize human and environmental survival, not corporate profit margins. Who benefits? Large U.S. shipping corporations, political lobbying groups. Who suffers? Puerto Rican families, small businesses, the island's environment. The slide is about power and outcomes. If the same groups benefit financially while others suffer, that's a sign the system is unbalanced. Environmental justice looks at who carries the burden of pollution, high costs, and delayed recovery. And here the burden falls on Puerto Rico. No taxation without representation. Puerto Ricans pay federal taxes, cannot vote for presidency or for members of Congress. Possible solutions: full repeal of the Jones Act for Puerto Rico, permanent disaster recovery exemptions, self determination through statehood and referendum. This connects the policy problem to representation. If people are affected by US laws but don't have full voting power to change them, that becomes a democracy issue. The solutions listed here show different pathways, changing the law directly, creating exemptions, or changing Puerto Rico's political status so decision making becomes fair. Which group benefits most from the Jones Act? A. Puerto Rican families. B. Environmental protection agencies. C. Local island farmers. Or D. Large U.S. shipping corporations. Question. Think about who gains money and control from restricted shipping. The correct answer is D. Large U.S. shipping corporations, because limiting competition protects certain companies and keeps prices high. This is part of why Puerto Rican families and local businesses face higher costs.
How can shipping delays after a hurricane affect the environment? A. Faster rebuilding and cleaner energy. B. Increased generator use and higher emission. C. Lower food prices. D. Reduced fuel consumption. The correct answer is B. Increased generator use and higher emission. When supplies are delayed, repairs take longer. People rely on backup generators and temporary systems longer, which increases fossil fuel use and air pollution. True or false? National security laws should never be changed, even if they cause long-term environmental harm to vulnerable communities. The best answer is false. National security matters, but policies should be reviewed if they create long-term harm, especially harm that hits vulnerable communities the hardest. A balanced policy protects the country and avoids preventable environmental injustice. Which factor makes Puerto Rico especially vulnerable to shipping restrictions? A. It has too many shipping ports. B. It produces all of its own food and fuel. C. It is an island that depends heavily on imports. D. It controls U.S. shipping policy. The correct answer is C. It is an island that depends heavily on imports. Puerto Rico relies on shipped goods for food, fuel, medicine, and building supplies. So when shipping is restricted or slowed, the whole system feels it immediately, economically, socially, environmentally. The Jones Act is not just a shipping law. It is an environmental justice issue, a human rights concern, and a systemic barrier to sustainable recovery for Puerto Rico. True change-making means dismantling policies that harm communities and replacing them with solutions that allow people and ecosystems to thrive. Here is a video to basically sum up what we've been presenting. This concludes our presentation. Thank you. Thank you to the sources we've used to complete our presentation.